Look around the room you're in right now. Even if it's clean, it isn't really clean. Dust is settling onto every surface. Tiny fibers drifting through the air. Dead skin cells floating invisibly in the sunlight. Bits of smoke, fabric, pollen, bacteria, fragments of the outside world quietly entering your space every second. And the strange thing is, this never stops. You wipe the table today, and tomorrow the dust returns as if the room itself is slowly dissolving into disorder. Now imagine something much stranger. Imagine a giant city. Not an ordinary city, but a city where every factory leaks chemicals. Every power plant produces smoke. Every machine creates heat and waste. Buildings crack constantly and must be repaired before they collapse. Roads decay while millions of vehicles are still driving on them. And imagine this city never sleeps. No pause button, no shutdown, no moment of silence, 24 hours a day, endless activity. Now imagine that inside this city, trillions of tiny workers are carrying packages, repairing wires, demolishing broken structures, removing garbage, fighting invaders, rebuilding roads, delivering fuel, and transmitting messages faster than any human civilization ever could. That city is your body. And if you really think about that for a moment, it becomes almost unbelievable that you survive at all, because most people imagine the body as a stable thing, a finished object, like a statue or a machine assembled once and then left alone. But from the perspective of physics, that's not what you are. You are an event, a process, more like a flame than a sculpture. A flame looks stable when you stare at it. It appears to be one object, but the flame is never the same flame from one second to the next. Fuel enters. Heat transforms it. Gases escape. Energy radiates outward. The shape persists while the material constantly changes. Your body works in a very similar way. Right now, as you sit here listening to this, old cells are dying inside you. Proteins are breaking apart. DNA is being damaged by ordinary chemistry. Tiny molecular structures are collapsing and being rebuilt continuously. Inside your brain, electrical activity burns enormous amounts of energy just to maintain thought itself. Even thinking creates waste. That's the part people rarely appreciate. Life is not clean. Life is controlled chaos. Every heartbeat creates stress on tissue. Every breath exposes you to particles and microorganisms from the environment. Every meal introduces thousands of chemicals your body must sort, process, store, transform, or remove. And yet somehow, despite all this internal turbulence, most of the time your body maintains order. Your temperature stays within a narrow range. Your blood chemistry remains balanced. Your organs coordinate with astonishing precision. Not because the body is perfect, but because the body is constantly cleaning, repairing, adjusting, and correcting itself every second you are alive. If those repair systems stopped even briefly, the consequences would be catastrophic. You wouldn't slowly become unhealthy over years. You would collapse rapidly. Because living organisms are not naturally stable things. From the viewpoint of physics, stability is actually the strange part. A dead body follows the laws of entropy very easily. It falls apart naturally. Chemistry proceeds without resistance. Life, meanwhile, fights collapse continuously. That's what metabolism really is. That's what repair really is. And in a very deep sense, that's what being alive means. Holding back disorder for a little while longer. People often speak about the body as if it's something separate from nature, as if there's you. And then there's this biological machine carrying you around. But the deeper science goes, the harder that separation becomes to defend, because your body is not outside nature. Your body is an active piece of nature, behaving according to the same physical laws that govern oceans, storms, stars, and collapsing galaxies. And one of those laws is unavoidable. Every organized system tends to fall apart over time. This is the central problem of existence. A house left alone slowly decays. Metal rusts. Fruit rots. Batteries lose charge. Even mountains erode grain by grain under wind and rain. Order is temporary. The universe does not naturally drift toward organization. It drifts toward disorder. Physicists call this entropy. Now here's where life becomes strange. A living organism somehow pushes against this tendency. Not permanently, of course. Nothing escapes entropy forever. But life delays it, redirects it, negotiates with it. Your body is essentially performing damage control every second of your existence. And to understand how extraordinary that is, you have to zoom inward, far inward, Inside every cell of your body are molecular machines so tiny and complex that human language struggles to describe them properly. Not metaphorical machines, actual structures with moving parts. Proteins fold into precise shapes. Chemical signals travel through microscopic pathways. Membranes open and close like intelligent gates deciding what enters and what leaves. And all of this is happening in total darkness, silently, without your awareness. Right now, deep inside your cells, proteins are being inspected for errors. Imagine a factory where products constantly come off the assembly line damaged. Bent pieces, missing parts, faulty wiring. That would normally be a disaster. But your cells evolved systems to recognize damaged components and either repair them or destroy them before they cause larger problems. And the truly astonishing part is the scale. This isn't happening in one place. It's happening trillions of times simultaneously. The human body contains roughly 30 to 40 trillion cells, each one performing chemical operations beyond anything humans have engineered. If a city tried to coordinate activities at this scale, it would collapse instantly under the complexity. Yet biology somehow manages it, not perfectly, but well enough to keep you alive. And that phrase matters, well enough, because evolution does not create perfection. Humans often unconsciously assume the body must have been intelligently engineered like a carefully designed machine. But evolution is not an engineer sitting at a drawing board. Evolution is improvisation. It works with whatever already exists. That's why the human spine is prone to pain. It evolved from structures built for four-legged movement. That's why the eye has blind spots. That's why the breathing tube and eating tube cross paths in the throat, creating the absurd possibility of choking to death while trying to eat. These are not signs of elegant design. They are signs of historical modification. The body is a patchwork of old solutions layered onto even older solutions. And its cleaning systems evolved the same way. Take inflammation, for example. Most people think inflammation is bad because they experience it as pain, swelling, heat, discomfort. But inflammation is actually one of the body's oldest survival mechanisms. Without it, even small infections could kill you. Inflammation is the body declaring an emergency, sending resources, increasing blood flow, recruiting immune cells, hitting damaged tissue, building barriers against invasion. It's less like a symptom and more like controlled biological warfare. The problem is that systems evolved for short-term survival can become destructive when activated constantly. A fire in a forest can protect the ecosystem by clearing dead material, but a fire that never stops burns the forest itself. And modern human life may create conditions our biology never fully prepared for. Constant food availability, artificial light late into the night, chronic psychological stress, reduced movement, air pollution, chemical exposure. The body's ancient repair systems are operating inside an environment radically different from the one in which they evolved. And nobody fully understands all the consequences of that mismatch. That uncertainty is important. Because real science is not the absence of doubt. Real science is learning how to live honestly with doubt, while still searching for deeper understanding. One of the strangest discoveries in modern biology is that your body does not merely remove waste. In many cases, it dismantles itself on purpose. At first glance, this sounds horrifying, but life depends on it. There's a process scientists call autophagy. The word comes from Greek roots meaning self-eating, and the name is surprisingly accurate. Under certain conditions, cells begin breaking down old or damaged components inside themselves. Proteins that no longer function properly, defective structures, worn-out cellular machinery. The pieces are taken apart and recycled. Imagine a city where broken cars are melted down and transformed into raw material for building new cars. Nothing wasted, nothing sentimental. Constant reconstruction. That is how deeply practical biology is. Nature rarely throws useful material away. And this reveals something important about life that humans often resist emotionally. Your body is not trying to preserve every part of itself forever. It is trying to preserve function. Those are very different goals. Humans tend to think in terms of permanence. We become attached to the idea that stability means keeping things unchanged. But biology operates more like a river. The river remains recognizable even though the water constantly changes. Your body maintains identity through replacement. Skin cells die and are replaced. Blood cells die and are replaced. Cells lining your intestines are replaced so rapidly that large portions renew within days. Even your skeleton, which feels permanent and solid, is continuously remodeled by living cells. You are not physically fixed. You are a controlled transformation. And this raises a profound question. If so much of your material changes over time, what exactly is the self? Science doesn't fully answer that. The deeper researchers look, the stranger the problem becomes. Because there is no single location in the body where you exist. There is no tiny observer sitting inside the brain, watching reality unfold like a person inside a theater. Instead, there are networks, signals, feedback loops, electrical patterns, chemical gradients. The feeling of being a unified self may emerge from astonishingly complex interactions rather than from a single central controller. And yet, despite all this instability, continuity somehow persists. You wake up tomorrow still feeling like yourself, even though countless microscopic parts of you have changed overnight. That continuity may be one of the greatest mysteries in science. Now here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Researchers notice that autophagy and cellular repair systems often become more active under conditions of stress, particularly during nutrient scarcity. This led to enormous interest in fasting. And immediately, as humans always do, people rushed towards certainty far faster than the evidence justified. Suddenly fasting became a miracle, a cure-all, a magical reset button for the human body. But reality is more complicated. What scientists actually observe is that organisms evolved during periods when food was not constantly available. The body therefore developed adaptive responses to scarcity. In simple terms, when nutrients become limited, cells may shift priorities. Instead of focusing heavily on growth, they increase maintenance and recycling activities. That makes evolutionary sense. If resources are scarce, preserving function becomes more important than expanding aggressively. But there's an important scientific distinction here. Something being biologically interesting does not automatically mean it is universally beneficial. Human biology is full of trade-offs. Stress can strengthen systems up to a point. Beyond that point, stress destroys systems. Exercise improves health. Extreme overtraining damages the body. Inflammation protects against infection. Chronic inflammation contributes to disease. Even oxygen, the substance keeping you alive right now, slowly damages your tissues over time through oxidation. Life is built on balancing opposites. And humans struggle with this psychologically because we prefer absolute answers. Good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, safe or dangerous. But biology rarely behaves in absolutes. It behaves in probabilities, thresholds, interactions, and compromises. That's one reason medical science is so difficult. The human body is not a machine with a single instruction manual. It's an evolving ecosystem shaped by millions of years of adaptation, randomness, survival pressures, and environmental change. And despite all our technological progress, we are still trying to understand the basic rules governing the systems keeping us alive every moment. Now where does the mystery of the body become more obvious than in sleep? Think carefully about how strange sleep really is. Every night, consciousness fades, awareness disappears, muscles weaken, reaction time collapses. For hours, an animal becomes dramatically more vulnerable. From an evolutionary perspective, this seems absurd. Imagine an early human sleeping in a dangerous environment filled with predators, harsh weather, hostile groups, insects, disease, and uncertainty. A sleeping person cannot defend themselves effectively, cannot hunt, cannot run quickly, cannot remain fully alert to danger. And yet sleep exists in nearly every complex form of life we know. Birds sleep, mammals sleep. Reptiles exhibit sleep-like states. Even tiny creatures with primitive nervous systems show cycles resembling rest. That alone tells scientists something important. If evolution preserved sleep despite its risks, then its benefits must be extraordinarily important. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Scientists still cannot fully explain why sleep is necessary. That's astonishing when you really think about it. Human beings can split atoms, distant galaxies, genes, build artificial intelligence. Yet one of the most basic experiences shared by nearly every animal remains partly mysterious. We know many things about sleep. We know memory changes during sleep. Hormones shift dramatically. Immune function changes. Brain activity reorganizes itself in complex patterns. And one of the most fascinating discoveries involves cleaning. Researchers found evidence suggesting that during sleep, fluid circulation in the brain changes significantly. Spaces between certain brain cells appear to expand, allowing waste products to clear more effectively. In simple terms, the brain may perform part of its maintenance work while you sleep, almost like a city sending out sanitation crews after traffic disappears for the night. Now immediately, people turn this into dramatic headlines. Sleep detoxes your brain. Sleeping prevents dementia. Unlock your brain's cleaning mode. But careful science requires restraint. What researchers actually found is more subtle and more interesting. Certain waste products associated with normal brain activity appear to be cleared differently during sleep. Some of these compounds are linked to neurodegenerative diseases when they accumulate abnormally. That does not mean sleep is a magical shield against disease. Biology is never that simple. There are people who sleep well and still develop neurological illness. There are people with terrible sleep habits who remain cognitively sharp for decades. Human systems are influenced by genetics, environment, aging, metabolism, injury, randomness, and countless interacting variables scientists still barely understand. But the broader idea remains profound. Consciousness itself may generate biological wear and tear. Thinking is not free. Every thought requires electrical signaling. Every signal requires energy. Every use of energy produces byproducts. The brain, despite representing only a small percentage of body weight, consumes enormous amounts of energy relative to its size. Your thoughts are physical events. That sentence sounds simple, but philosophically it changes everything. A memory is not some ghostly object floating outside reality. It is encoded in matter. Love, fear, language, music, imagination all emerge from physical processes occurring inside living tissue, and yet subjective experience, the feeling of being aware, remains deeply mysterious. Scientists can observe neurons firing. They can measure brainwaves. They can identify networks associated with attention and memory. But nobody fully understands how electrical activity becomes conscious experience. Why does chemistry feel like something from the inside? Why should arrangements of atoms produce awareness at all? This is sometimes called the hard problem of consciousness. And despite decades of research, humanity remains profoundly confused by it, and perhaps that confusion reveals something important. Humans evolved to survive reality, not necessarily to intuitively understand it. Our brains are excellent at throwing spears, recognizing faces, navigating social groups, and detecting threats, but quantum mechanics feels unnatural to us. Relativity feels unnatural, evolution feels unnatural, even deep time feels unnatural. Likewise, the idea that consciousness might emerge from biological processes challenges human intuition, because our minds instinctively experience themselves as separate from matter. But modern science increasingly suggests something stranger. Mind may not exist outside biology. Mind may be what certain forms of organized matter do. And if that's true, then every sleeping brain becomes one of the most extraordinary objects in the known universe. A temporary arrangement of atoms capable of turning experience off, repairing itself in darkness, and then turning reality back on again by morning. The immune system may be one of the most misunderstood things humans have ever discovered inside themselves. People often imagine it as a kind of biological army. And in some ways, that analogy works. There are defensive cells, chemical weapons, surveillance systems, mirror responses, rapid communication networks. But the analogy also fails in important ways, because armies are usually directed by central command. The immune system is not. There is no general sitting in the brain issuing orders. Instead, the immune system behaves more like a vast decentralized society of interacting cells, constantly exchanging information through chemistry. And sometimes, that society becomes confused. To understand how strange this is, imagine a city where police officers, construction workers, garbage collectors, firefighters, and repair crews all communicate using invisible chemical signals drifting through the air. Now imagine these signals constantly changing depending on injury, infection, stress, sleep, food availability, temperature, age, and previous exposure to disease. That's roughly what's happening inside you. At every moment, your body is deciding what belongs and what does not belong. And this is far more difficult than it sounds, because the immune system faces a philosophical problem almost as much as a biological one. How do you destroy dangerous things without destroying yourself? That's an extraordinarily delicate balancing act. If the immune system responds too weakly, infections spread. If it responds too aggressively, healthy tissue gets damaged. In some autoimmune diseases, the body begins attacking its own cells as if they were foreign invaders. The defense system mistakes self for enemy. And this reveals something unsettling. Your body does not know things in the conscious sense humans imagine. It detects patterns, chemical patterns, structural patterns, behavioral patterns. Immune cells are not tiny conscious beings making rational decisions. They are products of evolution responding according to molecular rules shaped over millions of years. And usually those rules work astonishingly well. Usually, but evolution is not concerned with perfection, only survival long enough to reproduce. That distinction explains much of the suffering in biology. People often assume natural systems should be elegant and efficient, but natural systems are full of compromises. For example, inflammation is one of the immune system's most powerful tools. When tissue is damaged, inflammatory responses increase blood flow, recruit immune cells, destroy pathogens, and begin repair processes. Without inflammation, even small injuries could become fatal. But inflammation is dangerous too. Imagine firefighters saving a building by flooding it with water and smashing walls to stop flames from spreading. The building survives, but parts of it are damaged by the rescue itself. The immune system works similarly. Sometimes the process of protection causes collateral damage. A fever helps slow infection, but extreme fever becomes dangerous. Immune attacks destroy viruses, but excessive immune reactions can harm organs. Inflammation repairs tissue, but chronic inflammation may contribute to heart disease, arthritis, and neurological problems. Life survives through controlled destruction. That's a difficult truth for humans emotionally, because we tend to separate healing from harm. Biology often combines them. Even at the cellular level, destruction is necessary every day. Billions of your cells die intentionally through highly regulated processes. Scientists call one of these processes apoptosis, programmed cell death, and without it you would not survive. Cells that become damaged beyond repair are often instructed to dismantle themselves before they become dangerous. In a sense, the body sacrifices individual parts to preserve the larger system. That principle appears throughout nature. A forest loses leaves to survive winter. Your body sheds cells to maintain stability. Stars consume themselves to produce light. Existence seems to require transformation. Now, where is this more terrifying or more fascinating than cancer? Cancer is not an outside invader like a virus or bacterium. Cancer begins as your own cells, cells that stop cooperating. Normally, healthy cells follow rules. Grow when appropriate, stop growing when necessary. Repair damage. When damaged beyond repair, cancer cells break these agreements. They continue dividing and answer signals, consume resources selfishly. In a strange sense, cancer is not dead tissue. It is tissue behaving too aggressively alive. That's what makes it so difficult to fight. The body must destroy part of itself to save itself. And perhaps this points toward a deeper pattern in biology. Life is not maintained through perfect harmony. Life is maintained through endless negotiation between growth and restraint, repair and destruction, order and chaos. The body survives not because conflict disappears, because conflict remains balanced long enough for consciousness to briefly exist inside the storm. The liver is one of the most astonishing objects in the known universe. That may sound exaggerated until you examine what it actually does. Most people think of the liver as a simple filter, almost like a sponge cleaning dirty blood. But that picture is far too primitive. The liver is more like a gigantic biochemical processing city, operating with a level of complexity that human technology has not come close to replicating. Inside it, trillions of chemical reactions unfold with extraordinary precision every second. Nutrients arriving from food are transformed, sorted, stored, converted, released, or dismantled, depending on what the body needs at that exact moment. Hormones are regulated, Proteins are manufactured. Energy reserves are managed. Waste compounds are altered into forms that can safely leave the body. And perhaps most impressively, the liver neutralizes substances that could otherwise poison you. Alcohol, drugs, environmental chemicals, natural metabolic waste. All processed through networks of enzymes acting like microscopic chemical tools. Now imagine trying to build a machine capable of doing all this artificially, a machine that could detect thousands of different molecular structures, modify them in precise ways, decide which ones to keep, which ones to destroy, and which ones to store for later use, not in a laboratory, not under controlled conditions, but continuously, inside a moving organism exposed to unpredictable environments. Human engineering struggles even to approach such adaptability, and yet your liver performs these operations silently, while you think about completely unrelated things. You could spend an entire day worrying about emails, relationships, deadlines, politics, or money while an organ beneath your ribs performs chemistry so sophisticated it borders on incomprehensible. That disconnect is deeply revealing. Human consciousness experiences only a tiny fraction of reality. Most of what keeps you alive happens outside awareness. In fact, if you had to consciously manage your biology, you would die within minutes. You are alive largely because evolution automated processes too complicated for conscious control. And the liver reveals another important truth about life. Everything has a cost. The body's cleaning systems do not magically eliminate harmful substances without consequence. Processing chemicals creates stress. Repair creates wear. Neutralizing toxins requires energy and generates byproducts. Even oxygen, the substance sustaining your life right now, slowly damages tissues over time. This sounds paradoxical, but it's true. Oxygen allows complex organisms to produce enormous amounts of energy efficiently. But highly reactive oxygen molecules can also damage proteins, DNA, and cell membranes through processes collectively called oxidative stress. Life depends on chemistry that simultaneously sustains and harms it. The body survives through continuous compromise. That idea appears everywhere in biology. Sunlight enables life but damages skin. Inflammation protects against infection but can injure tissue. Cell division allows growth but increases the risk of cancer. Stress responses help survival but become destructive when constantly activated. Humans often search for perfect solutions, perfect diets, perfect lifestyles, perfect health systems. But biology rarely offers perfection. It offers trade-offs, and the body's ability to clean and repair itself exists within those trade-offs. For example, the liver can regenerate remarkably well compared to many organs. Portions of it can regrow after injury in ways that seem almost science fiction-like. But regeneration is not limitless. Chronic damage eventually overwhelms repair systems. Scarring accumulates, function declines, balance destabilizes. This is another emotionally difficult reality for humans. The body is resilient, but not invincible. People tend to swing between two extremes. Either they imagine the body as fragile glass that breaks easily, or they imagine it as an indestructible machine capable of surviving endless abuse. Neither view is accurate. Biology is adaptive, but adaptation has limits, and those limits are often invisible until they are crossed. That invisibility may be one reason humans struggle to care for themselves rationally. Damage accumulates slowly. Repair happens quietly. Consequences emerge gradually. A person can feel healthy, while disease processes quietly develop beneath awareness for years. Plaques form in arteries silently. Cells mutate silently. Inflammation persists silently. Metabolic dysfunction evolves silently. The body whispers long before it screams. But human psychology is poorly designed for slow-moving threats. Our ancestors evolved to respond intensely to immediate danger. Predators, injuries, conflict, starvation. Modern diseases often emerge from subtle long-term interactions unfolding over decades. And because those processes are difficult to perceive directly, humans become vulnerable to illusion. We confuse feeling normal with being healthy. We confuse absence of symptoms with absence of damage. Yet beneath the surface, the body is always negotiating with chemistry, time, entropy, and survival, not perfectly, but with astonishing persistence. One of the deepest mistakes humans make is believing that the body operates according to simple rules. Eat this, avoid that. Take this supplement. follow this routine. We desperately want biology to behave like a machine with a clear instruction manual. But living systems are not simple machines. They are dynamic systems shaped by evolution, randomness, feedback loops, and environments that change dramatically over millions of years. And because of that, the body often behaves in ways that feel almost contradictory. Take stress. For example, most people think stress is inherently harmful, but without stress, you would weaken and die. Exercise is stress. Cold exposure is stress. Learning is stress. Healing from injury is stress. Your muscles become stronger because microscopic damage forces adaptation. Bones become denser because mechanical strain signals the body to reinforce them. Even the immune system develops partly through exposure to challenges. Life grows through carefully managed disturbance. This idea appears everywhere in nature. A tree exposed to wind develops stronger structural support. The human brain rewires itself in response to difficulty and repetition. Immune systems refine themselves through interaction with the environment. Too little challenge weakens systems, but too much challenge destroys them. And this is where biology becomes difficult for the human mind to intuitively grasp. Because there is rarely a sharp boundary between helpful and harmful, there are thresholds, ranges, probabilities. Water sustains life, yet excessive water can disrupt electrolytes and kill. Sunlight regulates biological rhythms, yet too much sunlight damages DNA. Food nourishes organisms, yet chronic excess contributes to disease. The same thing that heals under one condition may harm under another. And humans struggle psychologically with this because our brains evolved to categorize reality into simple opposites. Sober or dangerous, good or bad, friend or enemy. But biology exists in gradients. One reason modern health discussions become so confused is that people constantly search for universal rules in systems that are context-dependent. A behavior beneficial for one person may be harmful for another. A treatment effective under certain conditions may fail completely under different conditions. Even identical twins can respond differently to disease, environment, or stress over time. The body is not static enough for easy certainty. And perhaps nowhere is this complexity more obvious than in aging. Humans often think aging means wearing out, like an old machine slowly breaking from use. But aging is stranger than simple damage accumulation. Some organisms age rapidly, some age slowly, some barely seem to age at all for long periods. Certain jellyfish species can even revert to earlier life stages under specific conditions, almost like biological time reversal. This reveals something profound. Aging is not merely physics, it's also biology. Genes regulate repair systems, cells communicate chemically, protective mechanisms activate and decline over time. The body is not passively collapsing. It is actively managing decline, and scientists still debate many of the deeper reasons aging occurs. Some theories focus on accumulated cellular damage, others emphasize trade-offs in evolutionary energy allocation. Some point toward failures in communication between cells and tissues over time. The truth is probably a combination of many interacting processes. And this uncertainty matters because modern culture often presents science as a collection of fixed answers. But real science is usually a landscape of partial understanding, especially in biology. The human body is so staggeringly complex that every discovery tends to reveal deeper layers of mystery underneath it. Scientists solve one puzzle and uncover 10 more. For example, your body contains trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, fungi, collectively known as the microbiome. Many of them are not harming you. Some are helping you digest food. Some influence immune function. Some may even affect mood and behavior through chemical signaling pathways. Scientists are still trying to understand. In a strange sense, you are not entirely an individual organism. You are an ecosystem, a walking collaboration between human cells and microscopic life forms interacting constantly. And this changes how we think about identity itself. Where exactly does you end and the environment begin? The air enters your lungs. Food becomes your tissue. Bacteria alter your chemistry. Sunlight changes hormonal signaling. Experiences physically reshape neural connections in your brain. The boundary between self and world becomes blurry. Perhaps much blurrier than human intuition likes to admit. And maybe that's why humans struggle so deeply with understanding the body. Because the closer science looks, the less we resemble isolated machines, and the more we resemble temporary patterns emerging from an enormous interconnected process we are only beginning to understand.